Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's Dave Sharpe. Welcome to Wake Up Legendary. And yeah, you guessed it. We got yet another amazing guest this morning. My friend, yeah, I'm just on a laptop here, just a little laptop. See, I'm just moving my laptop screen around here. Nothing fancy, just getting the job done. And we're going to talk about getting the job done with our guest as well. She is a photographer. Full-time photographer who has taken quitting off the table. With that being said, Trenna, welcome to the show.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm so excited.
I know. I'm loving it. I'm really loving the energy. Are you a fan of the show? Have you watched it before?
I watch it every single day.
What?
And when I started November 27th, I said, one day I will meet Dave Sharpe and he will throw his freaking hat for me. Okay? Yes. We're succeeding.
We are. I'm bust. I stopped wearing this hat because I throw it so hard. It's got like this kind of plastic. I just bend this thing all up and it just looks hilarious. But oh well, I'll look like a farmer today. So where are you calling in from, Trenna?
So I live in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Do you know where that is?
Somewhere out there beneath the bright blue sky.
It is a bright blue sunny day here today, which is
Yes.
so if you're familiar with like Yellowstone National Park,
yeah,
there is
huge.
Yeah, it is huge. So there's like another
multiple states
it does. Yeah. And so it also borderlines this national park called Grand Teton. And so Grand Teton is barely inside Wyoming, and we live at the base of Grand Teton National Park.
Love it. So have you lived there all your life?
I have not. I've been here for 13 years, but I was born and raised over in Idaho. I'm a farm girl, grew up on a farm.
Okay.
Picked rocks all weekend long, and it sucked.
What did you do all weekend long?
We picked ginormous rocks out of the field so my stepdad could plant. It was awesome. So hard work is something we're used to.
that child slave labor, though.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Stepdad's like, you want some money for your car? Here you go. Go pick some rocks. You're like, it sucks. Okay.
All right. So you've never done anything like online marketing before other than sharing your photography images on your own Instagram. So you started this back in the end of November 2023. What was your motivation for wanting to start an online business?
Well, it was really interesting because I've heard a lot of people say this, and it rings so true to me that, like, you know, I didn't find Legendary found me. And I run, like you mentioned, I run a full-time photography business, which I love. And because of where we live, we're a massive tourist town. So we essentially work like 6 months of the year where you don't breathe. You're doing like 17 sessions a week. And then you're dead for like the rest of the 6 months. And I was like, I wonder how I could take my photography to the online space. And I ended up seeing all these things. And then I took the $7 course, the 15-day challenge. And I was like, okay, my initial thought going into it was, okay, this will help me bring my photography business to the online space. But then after going through it, and I had such an amazing advisor, I was like, I could totally like promote this. Like, this is epic. This education. And I had earlier last year had taken a couple courses that just amounted to way more than Legendary. And literally the amount of knowledge that I learned from those doesn't even compare to what I learned in the 15-day challenge. Like, I spent thousands of dollars to learn a lot less than I did just in the initial 7-day or the $7 challenge. So I was like, all right, I'm going to run with this. I told my husband, I'm like, I'm going to run with this. He's like, hey, you ran with photography. Like, if you want to run this, I'm here. You do whatever you want to do. So that's kind of how it started.
Nice. What's his name?
His name's Josh.
Shout out to Josh.
He's the best. Hat throw for Josh. He deserves it. I'm telling you. The guy's amazing.
Nice support. I see him back there in the picture back there with looks like 3 little munchkins. All boys, huh? All boys. Boy mom alert.
Yep, all day. Life is crazy.
Yeah, I hear you. So, like, okay, so you wanted to take your photography business online, and then you were like, wow, there's a lot more to this.
Yeah.
And so you took the challenge, you went and enrolled in our blueprints. Like, what was that
Mhm.
learning experience for you taking this information in? Would you relate it to like your traditional school experience? Was it different? Like, how so?
Well, so I actually never went to college. I met my husband when I was 17, and then I moved to Jackson, and we got married when I was 20, and then I stayed home with all of our babies. And
Mm,
so I actually never went to college, but what I have done is I'm someone who loves to learn, and I'm always seeking out ways just to better myself as a mother, as a wife, as a business owner, all of the things. And I feel like what was fascinating about Legendary is there is like you've talked about this before, but you can take what you learn in the blueprints and put it anywhere. Like it's not just to promote affiliate marketing, but even just like what I've learned in with the blueprints is I've been able to incorporate that into like my guides that I share through my photography business. And so it does go so far beyond. And the education is so massive. I remember when I first started learning, I was like, my head actually hurts. Like there's so much info here. Like I need to calm down and just like
I don't think that's in your vocabulary.
it's really not. I'm a hustler, okay? Homestead hustle. Like I hustle. And sometimes it kicks me in the butt, but I loved the education, and I still to this day 6 months after purchasing it will be like something will trigger a thought. I'm like, okay, this was in the blueprints, I need to go back and like re-listen to this.
Mm. Good for you. Good for you. Well, you started that question out by saying how you hadn't gone to college. And I just want to remind everybody, neither did I. I mean, I was a ninth grade dropout. I am a ninth grade dropout. Never went to college. For those of you who did go to college, that's fine too. Like, we're all on the cool thing about online marketing and entrepreneurship, for the most part. I'm not going to say that if you have a business degree, you don't have an advantage. You probably do,
Yeah.
because you probably know some things that I didn't know when I first got started. So I'm not going to, but for the most part, like your credentials and past experience and whether you have degrees or not doesn't add to your credibility out here. Like, unless you're going to take your therapy business or your medical business or your accounting business like online.
Yeah.
If you're doing something that doesn't require a degree, or society doesn't require that degree for you to practice that profession, then you're on the same page as everybody else. So that's important for people who have degrees to remember that that's not going to entitle you to any success. And it's also important for people who don't have degrees to not put themselves down or think that they're a step below people because they don't have a degree, because the internet really has leveled the playing field in a lot of different ways. Now, that doesn't mean it's easy. What were some of the challenges when you went from learning to launching? You even said this in your questionnaire that it's not easy and everybody's results are different. And so, what was something that was a challenge for you that you had to overcome, whether it was a limiting belief or just something that was difficult for you to do that you had to push through?
I would say just that showing up on social media, that like creating content, figuring out what works. And I think everybody struggles with this in the beginning is we all know who we are, right? But like when you have to put that camera in your face and hey, there might only be two people watching this, it's still like you're kind of putting on this face because you're like, am I enough? Am I good enough? Am I going to show up as enough? Is my content going to be enough? And so I feel like for me, that was like the biggest limiting belief was, can I really do this? Because I can show up on my photography page all day because I'm showing pictures of other people and my pictures, I love them. And I'm like, yeah, look what I did. But I don't have to be like, here I am, friends, all in your face, you know? And so I would say for me, the launching and then just kind of figuring out my voice and who I am and how I wanted my content to go. And that has, and still to this day, I'm like, I want people that come to my page. I want them to know me. I want them to really like enjoy me. I want them to be my friend. And then it's like, what do you have to offer? Because
Hmm.
I love you. I'm enjoying your content. And I want to see, oh, wow. Okay. You promote for this company. They must be really great because I love your content.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's been a massive learning curve.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. It is. And it's a challenge to be yourself and talk with confidence, right? Even though you know yourself when that camera gets turned on. However, you kept creating and did have some videos take off, and you do have nearly 100,000 followers on your Instagram. So what's when did things change for you? What did you start doing that you had maybe your initial video take off, or has it been a slow, steady climb for you over the course of the last 6 months or so?
Oh my gosh, I love this question, Dave. It was a slow climb. So I started, and then I had a video. I started end of November, and then I had a video take off right at Christmas, right? And it was like all of a sudden I gained like 2,000 followers in 7 days, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm here. We're killing it. The Instagram loves me, and then it stopped. I was like, oh, it stops. And it just all of a sudden it went. I mean, it took me 4 months to gain that next 2,000 followers. And it was so hard. And I remember listening to Gwen on Your Wake Up Legendary a few months ago. And I would just get on and I would compare myself to all of these people. And I'm like, how are people that started the same time as me got 100,000 followers and I was stuck at like 4,000? And it made me feel so icky that I was like, but that's 4,000 people still that are trusting me. That's a lot of people. And so at that point, I remember Gwen saying she kind of went through a struggle in her social media journey as well, and how she just had to unfollow everybody. And at one point, I just unfollowed everybody, and I just put on my like tunnel vision goggles, and I was like, I am going to be me. I'm going to do what feels right and authentic to me, and I'm going to go. And it still took some time. Like, I didn't start gaining a big following until literally the middle of April. And then it just took off. But I feel like it was just being like learning who I am, figuring out what was authentic to me that allowed people to be like, wait, I think I maybe I like you. You know, maybe I do want to follow you.
Yeah.
In this space. What
changed inside you as well? How have you evolved your confidence, your delivery, your message?
So I've personally changed because I decided, like you mentioned in the intro, like I'm not quitting. Like I know that building an online business takes time. And I think that when I started this, I was like, okay, well, in 6 months, I'm going to be killing the game and da-da-da-da. And that just wasn't the case. And so for me, it was this everyday challenge of like, I read this book called Think and Grow Rich. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's very famous. But there is a story in there where he talks about this guy bought this property and he knew there was gold on it, and he dug and dug and dug and he kept finding like little pieces of gold. Anyways, the shortened version of the story is he ends up realizing, okay, there's no gold here, so he sells it. The other guy purchases it for just nickels on the dollar, and he hires someone to help him study the property. He studies the property and realizes he's 3 feet away from the massive gold. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm never going to quit 3 feet away from the gold in my life. And so that has been the biggest like learning curve for me, and like that challenge and what I've had to like walk through. And that is not easy. Like there's some days where I'm like, okay, these specs are just not enough. I'm going to peace out. But I'm like, no, I'm never, like, we're almost there. You never know when your magic is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know that's a statement that everybody has to come to terms with on their own, right? Like what is your quitting point? Like for example, like if you were doing something for like multiple years and it didn't pan out, then you know maybe you take a look at pivoting or completely stopping. But most people don't even make it a couple of weeks or a couple of months. If you're not getting results after doing something for a couple of weeks, or especially a couple of months, there's a lot of things that you can do besides quit. Similar to if you were in a relationship or raising kids, you don't just quit, you try something different. Right? How many times have you had to switch your approach as a 3-boy mom to get them to right? I'm sure your
Yeah,
husband and you are constantly talking about ideas. Maybe this will work with them. Maybe that will be useful for them. Maybe
totally.
they'll get something out of this. Yeah, so yeah, he didn't like that today, or that didn't work really well, or same thing in your marriage, or any other thing that's hard but worth fighting for. It's
Absolutely.
like, how many times do you have to readjust your approach? Well, as many times as it takes. And if
Absolutely.
if you adjust your approach lots of times, and if you're able to honestly say, look, I've exhausted all of my options and all of my resources and all of my resourcefulness for this thing that I really care about, and I still can't get it, then you maybe think about quitting. But
Mhm.
only you can answer the question, have you truly exhausted all your efforts?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
That's like a really that's not a question that anybody else can answer for you. So there's an element of entrepreneurship, as is with just adulthood, in anything that you're going to do that's worth fighting for or working for, where
Mhm.
you're going to have to say, did I split test that enough? Did I actually give it my best effort? How many videos did I post? Did
Yeah.
I try multiple approaches? Did I actually go through the training? Did I actually use the resources? Did I actually X, Y, Z, A through Z? Did
Mhm.
I try all the things? And
Yeah.
it's so easy at step 3 or C or D or E or F, like kind of you take a couple of steps and then it's like, well, that wasn't working. Wow, that grass is greener on the other side. That looks actually easier over there. And then you know what? That
100%.
same approach of it will haunt you. It will come back, and how you do one thing is usually how you do everything. And so I
Mhm.
always say, get see what your best really looks like with whatever you're going to do, whether it's this or whether it's going and doing something else. See
Yeah.
what your best actually looks like. So what have
Mhm.
you learned about yourself throughout this process in terms of what you're capable of?
Ooh, what have I learned about myself? Um, I would just say that, yeah, that I have learned that, quitting is not something that I want to do. I want to, and like you said just a second ago, is finding something that, that you're good at, like whether it is this or not. Like I've always tried to find things that I love to do, which is why I've been successful with my photography business. Why I feel like I've been successful with this is just learning, like, okay, I'm learning all of these things, but what do I love in the process that I can use to my advantage to grow this particular business? And so I would just say it's just it's like you've talked about before. It's kind of like this self-discovery. There's like we all have so many layers, right? And I feel like business is like helps us unravel so many things about
Mm.
ourselves. And we have to have that strong mindset. Like when in the beginning, or like kind of when I hit that rough patch in like February, end of January, 1st of February, after I kind of had a big boom and I just plummeted, and I was actually losing more followers and losing more email subscribers than I was gaining.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, this freaking hurts. Like to watch, okay, I did it. And I'm like, wait, what am I doing? And I had to, like you said, like I had to figure out, okay, I'm not doing something right here. How can I fix this? How can I pivot? And so I think what I've learned about myself is just looking at what's going on and how I can adapt to that. How can I, add my own personality into something, because there's always going to be a change, right? Like
Mm.
how can we adapt to that change? How can I find what I love in that piece of whatever's happening?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. A lot of people are getting a lot out of this. Melissa said, wow, I love that. What does your best look like? Are you performing at your best? If not, pivot and try again.
Yeah.
Kathy said, girl, you're a fireball of energy and information.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. A lot of people asking about the book, Think and Grow Rich. Very, very old classic. Great book. Um, and these are the resources that are at our disposal. There's so many different things out there that can help us be better, and it all really boils down to how we think and how we approach something. Our approach is everything. It's about planning and making a commitment to yourself before you start, or as you're moving along, about how, what you're going to do with this. Usually we know the effort that we're going to put into something. Usually we know whether we're going to give it a good go or whether we're just going to kind of see if something falls in our lap. And if it doesn't, we're kind of going to not really pursue it that hard. Like it's in our hearts. I think that's what makes a powerful entrepreneur, somebody who's what they say and what they feel and do are all aligned. You can't be out saying one thing and then really in your heart, you're giving it a half-ass effort, or complaining. This is the worst. And it's not the worst because I hate listening to complainers, although I do, but it's just the worst because you're not hurting anybody except yourself. When you play the victim or you blame your lack of success on somebody else, you're never going to get ahead in life like that. So whether you're going to do something here or somewhere else, you have to take full ownership of it. I mean, if everybody listening could just wrap their head around that one concept of taking absolute full responsibility and blaming nothing on anyone else, you would be amazed by how your life would change by that. Even if it is somebody else's fault, just saying, where could I have been better? One of my favorite things to do and watch is post game press conferences with professional athletes. And I'm really into the playoffs, the NBA basketball playoffs right now. And some of the heartbreak and also some of the personal responsibility that you hear from some of these athletes shows you why they're where they are. The superstars on the team usually say, I take full responsibility for the loss. Yeah. Even if it was, I mean, basketball is clearly a team sport. There's also a coach, but that superstar says, I take full responsibility for the loss. I have to get better. I have to be better. I wasn't my best out there. And that's why they are as good as they are, is because they don't look to blame anybody else except themselves. And that personal responsibility that they feel pushes them to practice and be better. Does that resonate with you? What comes up for you when I use that analogy?
Absolutely. Well, it's funny because we're huge football fans. So we're in Wyoming, so we don't have like a state football team. So my 11-year-old son loves the Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, he is
the best. Yeah, I mean they're just a dynasty.
Yeah, and he has loved Pat Mahomes since he was like 6 years old. And in my mind, it's like, when he's going to the Super Bowl, everybody counted him out. There was this interview. He had an interview and they were like, listen, you're the GOAT. Like they're giving him all these compliments. He's like, man, I'm not. Like, he's like, it's my team. It's the people behind me. And I think that is so true. Like we have to have a support system. And one thing that's so like a lot of people, and I've heard this on a lot of Wake Up Legendaries, is we enter this space kind of alone, right? We're like, because so many of us have tried multi-level marketings and we've bugged our in-laws and we've bugged our parents, we've bugged our friends, and we're like, we don't want them to be like, oh my gosh, what are you doing now? What are you doing? Right. And so we kind of like, we slither into to TikTok and Instagram under these names. And we're kind of like, don't tell anybody. Everybody that's going to find me right now is not from this country anyways. So we're fine. And we kind of like hide in this space. But what's really cool is like after a minute, you start realizing, okay, I kind of like this person. I kind of like this person. And some of the gals that I have met in this space have become some of my best friends. And there's a gal that I met who lives in LA that I've never actually met, but we FaceTime 3 or 4 times a week and we're talking business strategies. Okay, what if we tried this? What if we tried this? And it's creating like a team. And that is what's so cool about Legendary is you have Drew, you have like all these the calls every day, but then you can go in and do your own like questionnaire and ask. Like I went a few weeks ago and asked Drew, I'm like, Drew, I need some help. And he's like, give me all these tips. I'm like, why have I not done this sooner? Like I left with a whole page of notes. Like you guys, you have the team behind us to set us up for success. And so I love that. That's the one thing I love about Legendary, because not every company offers that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're getting so much support, and I'm glad that you're feeling supported. And it's definitely, when I hear somebody like Pat Mahomes not be willing to take credit, he doesn't accept the people blowing up his ego. But
Yeah.
if he loses at the end of a game, he takes all of the responsibility,
Yeah.
takes none of the credit for being a dynasty, but takes all of the responsibility during a loss. That's what makes a superstar. That's what creates. I mean, that's almost, it's like so blatantly obvious what the formula for massive success is. It's like being humble to where you don't take, credit from people who are trying to like gas you up. But then if it's a loss or you have a loss or you have a struggle, you take all the responsibility and you just only talk about how you can get better and you place none of the blame on anybody else. It's like it's so blatantly obvious why people are massively successful and others are massive, always struggling, because that addiction to struggle comes, it's an addiction to being a victim. It's an addiction to being a victim, to being to not taking responsibility, because for whatever reason, and I don't get it, because I really I feel blessed that I have learned this. Maybe it was in sports. I don't know where it was. Somewhere along the way, I learned kind of this formula for success, and it's exactly what I'm talking about here. It's not getting gassed up when people are trying to call you the GOAT and say how great you are, but it's during tough times or failures, taking all the responsibility and saying, how can I get better, and not pointing the finger. And it's such an easy, like, to understand but hard to implement formula, because
Absolutely.
it requires you to like swallow your pride and like not let your ego get in the way. And ego stands for easing God out. Also, it can stand for easing green out, right? Green being money, right?
Yeah.
I always say, don't let your ego be bigger than your bank account,
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's a lot of egos with people that are usually, if somebody has a big ego, it's much bigger than their bank account is. And so these are just simple, timeless, even the thing you brought up from Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, simple, timeless thoughts and principles for us all to follow that never go out of style and will always create a positive outcome if you follow them. And I love that you're just so thirsty for knowledge and hungry for like these real, not these hypey here today gone tomorrow strategies or mindsets, but like you're really in it to win it. And what a great example that is for your children as well, you know what I mean? Because what a great mom you are to be showing them that sort of work ethic and that sort of approach to both business and life. So what's your final piece of advice for people who are like listening to this, starting, feeling whatever, all the feels that people feel when they first get started? If you could go back and give yourself a piece of advice back when you started in November, what would you tell yourself?
Ooh, I would tell myself to stay with Legendary. There were so many people in this space who had massive followings who also had their own memberships. And I feel like there was a lot that was like, there was a lot of things that kind of led astray a little bit. And so I would say, come to Legendary. You guys have so many resources. Like if you sign up for Legendary, come in the back office, ask the questions, reach out to Drew, like get on those calls, ask those questions, and have them give you the advice of the right content to share in the very beginning so that you're on the right path to success and in compliance for yourself. And just that would be my biggest piece of advice, is just doing it the right way the first time, because it really sucks to get halfway through and realize, oh crap, I didn't really do this the right way, and having to pivot, and just being yourself. Like whoever your closest person is to you says you are, be that person in front of everybody, because if you're loved by someone, the people around on the internet, they're going to see right through fake. They're going to see right through your ego. They're going to see right through that. and they're not going to want to be a part of what you have. Being you allows those people to see who you are and what you bring to the table.
Yeah. 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 I love that. I love that. Be who the closest person that you have in your life that you love and feel supported by says you are. Wonderful, wonderful advice, Trenna. And we're going to share your Instagram here so people can find and follow you. Thank you for your time today, my friend. It's been wonderful. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's been great. Your energy's awesome. And I can't wait to follow up with you here real soon and continue to follow your journey.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited, Dave. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me.
All right. We'll talk to you later, my friend. Stay legendary.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye. All right, my friends, you can find Trenna over on Instagram at homestead.hustle.with_T. Okay, it's up on the screen right there. You can find Trenna over on Instagram at that handle. She's awesome. Great energy. What a wonderful story. And so many, so many great examples of resourcefulness, and just not waiting for it to come to you, but going and getting it, whether you're, using the training that you bought, which you're going to have to do that no matter where you go, what you do, you're going to have to take the time to learn, but also asking questions, being a great student, reading books, putting things into practice, having your breakthrough, celebrating those breakthroughs, doing more of what works. It's a really simple formula. The days can seem long, but the months and the years will seem short once you get on a roll. And so find your role, find your groove, find your swag and get on it, and then ride the wave, ride the ebbs and hold on, or, ride the flows and hold on through the ebbs, because they're both going to come. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. As she said, there was a 2-month period where she only gained 4,000 followers, but that was an ebb. You know what I mean? That was you got to hold on during those points. You got to hold on during those moments and wait back for the flow to happen. Entrepreneurship in business is give and go. Just because you're used to being in a job that always paid you the same amount every week didn't mean the company made the same amount every week. They probably had big months and slow months, right? But you never saw that because you weren't the business owner. So now you're sitting in that captain's chair as the business owner and you're seeing those ebbs and flows. Well, welcome to opportunity, right? That's where there is no ceiling, but there also the opportunity has trap doors. You could also fall and go down lower than you've ever been before, right? So that's sort of what you have to understand about entrepreneurship going into it, is that there's going to be ebbs and flows, there's going to be ups and downs, but that's what you wanted, right? That's what you asked for. That's what you signed up for. So it's sort of like having children. It's like you can't just think about all the good times with having children, right? I mean, that'd be ignorant, right? It's like, oh, I only want to take care of my kid when they're perfect and in all the highlights, right? And during their birthdays, during holidays, right? Well, yeah, you also got to do the early mornings, the sleepless nights. You got to do the difficulties during teenage years and all the other bullshit in between. It's just, that's what comes with it. But guess what? You also get the beautiful moments, right? It's with everything in life. So there is nothing that has just all, holding hands and running through a field of flowers and riding unicorns. That shit doesn't exist. Everything that's worth having, you have to work hard for, and you have to figure out how to ride those ebbs, but enjoy those flows. And Trenna is a beautiful example of somebody who's doing that. So go and check her out at homestead.hustle.with_T. That's her handle over on Instagram. And check her out, find her, follow her, support her. And we'll be back here tomorrow for another episode of Wake Up Legendary. My friends, have a beautiful day. One last for Trenna, and we will see you back here tomorrow. Get out of here. Have a great day. Peace.